Welcome to the Real Estate Reserve Podcast.
What's up, everybody? What's going on?
Oh, dude, that was awesome.
At Hard Money Bankers and Ian at Equity Warehouse. Hope you guys liked our new intro. I got to take this off the screen. Hope you guys liked your new intro. Yeah, man, we're pumped. We're going to continue going strong with this podcast because we're having a lot of fun with it, and hopefully you're enjoying it. And we've had a lot of viewers as well. So, okay, so today is Tuesday, April 14th, a very special day. Ian finally got his partner, Dan Mathe, to hop on live with us. So we're going to introduce him in a second. Jim, love the comment. Can't wait to see this one, Dan Mathe. Yeah, got some good stuff. Got some good stuff ahead. So, okay. So obviously we've been timestamping all of these podcasts because things are changing very regularly. Ian's going to fill you in on his approval that he got from the Paycheck Protection Program today. So we're going to talk about that. But the majority of the show today is going to be geared more towards personal finance related to real estate businesses and to make sure your real estate business is financially healthy. It's a super important thing. Now, obviously, it would have had to have been healthy like a month ago and before that to weather these times. But it's a very important topic. And, one of the things that Dan's going to share in a second is the importance of, your personal household financials and your business financials kind of going hand in hand. So we're going to dive into that in a second. What else we got to share with everybody, Ian?
Well, let me hop in real quick and I'll kind of spitball as I go. So just this morning, I woke up to some good news. We have gotten approved through our bank, and I believe it's an official email saying we are the PPP. It's a little different for us. We actually submitted all of our documentation up front through the bank, what they believe they need. So they were able to get us approved. And the cool thing is it's saying within 5 business days of the approval of that email, which we approved this morning. So I'll keep everyone posted what's happening. All the terms have remained the same from what we can tell. And as we have action, we will keep everybody posted. I think what we're going to dive really deep into, and obviously for those that don't know me, I'm kind of more of the spatial type. Hard for me to concentrate on one little thing. And something that Dan showed me since we've been in business together has really been how to work off budgets, how to keep everything, together, and making sure that your business is financially healthy. Without a healthy, financially healthy business, or let alone your own household, it makes it very hard to be successful. So if you want, I'd love for Dan to join our broadcast here.
What's up, Dan? Are you there?
Here I am.
There you are. There you are.
I think this is a first. This is a first for Dan to be live on camera.
Are you guys in the same office, or is one of you guys at home?
There's a wall here that separates us from.
There's the wall between us.
A 6-foot wall. That's good.
Right.
Hopefully you can't hear this power washer that literally had to come to my house at the exact same time that we went live on this, but he should be finishing up in a second. So we'll move in. All right. So Dan, let's go through some of this stuff. What's your thoughts related to ways to either improve your your real estate business's financial situation, or what are just some things kind of in general related to the importance of a financially healthy real estate business?
Right. Well, so let me preface it by saying I am no financial guru by any means. I can only tell you what we do and how I run my own household finances, and I think it's led us to be successful for the most part through today. I think the first step probably is, for me personally, is being debt-free, living a debt-free lifestyle, other than like my mortgage. And that then correlates into business as far as, not taking on credit card debt, not taking on car loans and over leveraging yourself on other stuff. I mean, we do have mortgages, but that's it. Outside of that, we pay our bills on the first of the month, and then everything else is left over. So to reinvest wherever.
Okay, so obviously, debt-free as much as possible, and obviously that's hard in some particular cases besides mortgages. what are your thoughts about, okay, so if you don't have leverage on some of your debt on some of your stuff, walk us through some game plans related to, I guess, assets and, investing. Like what's your personal strategy? Do you like to keep things in cash or invest in your personal business, or is there other assets that you're kind of involved in?
Yeah. So, I mean, fortunately, me and Ian have been in the farm, we do a pension, but we do also have a self-employment, what they call a SEP or whatever it is, an IRA, I believe. So we are diversified in that aspect, and having the pension allows us to play in the stock market. So basically, everything else outside of that, we focus solely on the real estate game. And then inside the real estate, we're diversified through some commercial assets, mostly residential, single family stuff, and some multifamily. And I mean, that's pretty much it. I mean, we keep it simple. You know what I mean? Like, don't overcomplicate it, right?
Invest in what you're comfortable with. Invest in what you know.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I don't go out. I don't look to go out prospecting. Everyone says, "Oh, buy this and buy that" because the stocks are down. But I just trudge along and stay consistent and keep dropping money in the pot, and then hopefully by the time I go to retire in 20, 30 years, the nest egg is grown.
Yeah, that's 100% right, and that's kind of always been our game plan from the get-go. Is that if we can add just a few assets every year, on a 30-year fire department career, at the end we'll have this big holding. Right. Dan, obviously I know the story, but early on, me and Dan did take on some debt, some of it being secured or unsecured, and it was very easy just to go out and get money. Credit cards were very easy to put business finances onto and not paying them down. Your wife's here. She stalks you on all of your online podcasts. You want to discuss the play set issue?
No, we're not getting back into that.
But anyway, if you could just comment kind of what you were seeing and why we decided to slow down on taking on investor debt and, keeping control of our bills and making, where were we headed had we not gained control of that at an early stage?
We'd be out of business. Flat out. I mean, the cash flow wasn't there to support, especially when we're flipping houses, because it's unpredictable. You know what I mean? It's a roller coaster of money in and money out, so we wanted the consistent cash flow, which is why we've switched to solely, building a rental portfolio. Probably, I don't know, it's been 3-4 years since we started our first one, maybe I don't even know, 5 years. But, the roller coaster of riding the flipping train got old, and that consistent cash flow with the rentals is why we switched to that. Personally, myself, me and my wife, we woke up one day and we were, I don't know, 40 to 50 grand in personal debt, everything from car loans to school loans to credit card debt. And it wasn't sustainable. We're living paycheck to paycheck. And, I started doing my own research, found a lot of information through Dave Ramsey, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and changed my mindset and focused on getting completely personally out of debt. That way I knew if I wanted to dabble in real estate, there was less of a risk because I knew I could still pay my bills at home because I essentially didn't have any bills.
Yeah. So the Dave Ramsey approach, he's, and correct me if I'm wrong, because he's not actually one of the people that I read or follow, but most of his stuff is debt free, right? Like don't leverage up, don't finance things.
Yep.
Yeah. And I agree with that approach on a lot of stuff. I mean, I've always had the mindset of real estate in general, you should be financing, but you should be financing it responsibly, not 100% leverage. Ideally, in a perfect world, 50% leverage, but again, that's not realistic for everybody. Right. But put loans against that. I mean, Ian and I have been talking like 100% financing is probably, I'm hoping, not coming back. In general, like it's unfortunately somewhat irresponsible, and I understand that it gives people the ability. I mean, I've had a lot of naysayers that have reached out to me and said, well, it gives a lot of people the ability to buy properties, and you're right. But when things are good, it's fine. But you have no contingency plan. If you have $100,000 loan on a $100,000 property, there's no contingency in plan. So it enables you, in order to purchase a property you might not be able to otherwise. And yes, it is going to affect the real estate market. especially what like Chase, stated yesterday, that they're upping their credit requirements and they're lowering their LTVs. So yeah, retail homeowners now, it'll be harder to qualify for some of the fix and flips or a newer house. So that could soften the market. But in general, I think on a macro level, it's a little bit more responsible. I mean, you have a lot more options when you have built-in equity.
Yeah.
On properties.
I mean, look, it's almost predatory the way mortgages work. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, when you're offering someone 100% financing and you're telling them, well, yeah, you can go out and buy a $400,000 or $500,000 house, but you make, $70,000 a year. I mean,
that's right.
You have nothing left over. Yeah, you might be able to afford that mortgage, but you can't afford the furniture that goes in the house. You can't afford to go out and buy a nicer car or whatever. You know what I mean? You're then struggling. You're paycheck to paycheck at that point.
Yeah, yeah, and also like like a 40 or 45% DTI. It's like there's no leftover money. It's
right.
Based off of gross numbers. If I'm making,
and I think that comes back to knowing and understanding your numbers. Like living on a budget. I mean, if my wife's watching, she knows I'm like a Nazi when it comes to my personal budget, because I want to know where every penny is. I need to know, and I need to drive the money, and what's there, what's left over, or did the bills get paid and what's left? And okay, now what can we do with it? And I kind of budget myself on what do you call it, a $0 budget, I believe, or something like that, where basically there's no money left over in my budget at the end of the month. If there's $1 left over, well, then I put that somewhere else in my savings account, or it's every penny is going up somewhere.
Right. And that exact mindset though, right there. I mean, look, I'm a little more free spirited, especially when it comes to money, right, wrong, or indifferent. And had I been in charge, God knows where we would be today. But that exact mindset right there, I mean, I think Dan can comment. Our business exponentially grew the day we got online on QuickBooks and understood where every penny was going in and out of this business, because it was too easy just to be like, oh, $5 here, $10 there, go fix this last little bit of a flip. And then you're lying to yourself about your numbers.
Right. Exactly.
Well, what's one of the first things, I don't know if you remember, one of the first things my business partner, Chris, mentioned about hiring a bookkeeper? You remember that? And creating your budget and bookkeeping in general. If you can't count the money, you can't be in business. It's that simple.
Yeah, I mean,
like if you don't know where your money's going and you can't figure it out, you're not in business. And obviously everyone's heard the terms, pay yourself first, pay your bills second. So all money, first you got to go into your assets. The rest of the money goes into expenses and things like that. But it's very simple. And I agree with you related to your home and your work or your business have to be traded. If you're financially irresponsible at home, you're going to be financially irresponsible in your business. It's that simple. Inside Hard Money Bankers, we take out the same amount of money. For the way it's set up is we take out the same amount of money every month, right? And that pays my household bills and Chris' household bills, and everything else is straight invested into an asset. So just like you said, related to every penny is accounted for. Ours is as well. Every month we're putting money into assets. If it's a 401k, retirement plan. If we're reinvesting into notes. If we're putting money into whatever, some sort of equities, whatever it is, putting money away in order to purchase a new property, whatever the case is, every dollar is accounted for. And the sad thing is, if someone makes $3,000 a month, or $5,000 a month, or $7,000, or 10, or 20, or 30, or even $100,000 a month. And if they're financially irresponsible at 3,000, they're going to be financially responsible for 100,000, and they're just going to blow it and spend it because that's just what they're used to. And I'll never forget, a buddy of mine told me, and he's pretty well off and lives in a very nice big neighborhood and $1 million plus houses. And, a lot of them, most people there are highly paid corporate jobs that have very high W-2s. And he was like, there's not many people in my neighborhood that could even write a check for like $100,000. And these are guys that are making upper six figures and seven figures because they spend everything.
Yeah, no, I believe the stat is like 78% of all Americans live paycheck to paycheck or something like that, or don't have $1,000 in their savings account, which is like insane because now here we are, shit hits the fan and, you're struggling, there's nothing there. I mean, that money's going. And luckily, I've, because of budgeting over the last however many years, I've left myself set up currently today hopefully we're all, the economy's back open in a month or two, but, I'm not sweating it right now because I've laid the foundation for when this day happened, thank God.
Yeah.
So,
and I think real estate in particular, people are quick to the trigger of like, they want to play the fast forward game instead of keeping everything slow and steady. They see the opportunity, and typically, we all know there's lots of cases in real estate, especially if you jumped into real estate in the last 10 years where you got lucky on your first flip or two and made a good amount of money. And then you say, oh, I'm going to just 10X this. Instead of me buying one property, I'm going to buy 10 properties. Well, guess what? Buying one property you can do as a hobby or a side gig, 10 properties at a time. It's a full-on business with a lot of other responsibilities. So it's like, hey, I just bought one property and I made 20 grand. All right, well, I'm going to buy 10 now and I'm going to make 200 grand. Well, number one, it's not going to work like that. And number two, it's you gotta do it the right way. So I think in particular this fall is tough for a lot of real estate investors because in general, whatever profits they make, they want to reinvest in their business. Right. And I'm all about reinvesting in businesses, but at the same time, like you got to have that cash liquidity and you need to be able to weather the storm. And that's the issue. And there's two sides of this. There's cash flow, and then there's freaking, windfalls or buckets or something else to store that. And, if you follow any of Warren Buffett's stuff, you always need cash flow on a regular basis, just cash flow. And again, it doesn't need to be tons and tons of cash flow, but it needs to be cash flow to keep all your expenses intact and all your overhead intact. And then everything above that, save, you can play with.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I see you pop Josh Grice's comment up there about the emergency fund. Josh Grice, I think Dan helped him out immensely, going down the typical path of, hey, credit card, and not have anything. I mean, both personally and financially, Dan, I don't know if you can comment, but how important it is to have an emergency fund. I know recently as we've grown our portfolio, what the right reserve amount has been a topic of discussion and kind of how we both, can you comment like on how we both compiled what we decided is a good emergency fund?
Yeah, no, I mean, so personally, I like to keep 6 months of whatever my budget is. And that's the thing. If you don't know your budget, you're not going to know your emergency fund. So if your budget is, I don't know, let's say $5,000 a month in expenses, to have on hand 6 months of those in reserve. That's in a savings account you just don't even look at or touch or whatever. That's my philosophy personally. I think we have in our reserve fund for the business, I think we decided on, it was like $100 a month per property, and I don't know, for like emergency reserves or something. So I forget. But we've been going back and forth on it because it's been a debate for the last, I don't know, even before this whole thing hit the fan with the economy. I mean, we've been discussing it for the last 12 months, just what is the right number, and we've been tweaking it and going back and forth on it. So
and naturally it happened because we had a bigger exposure, right? Everything we were grinding up on an upward track, and things were just being built. We had tenants. We didn't have many turnovers. You don't really think about it when you're in growth mode. I know Jason talks about a lot. There's a big difference between growth mode and then long-term stabilization. I think naturally it came out because we were doing the right things, and that's what happened. What should we say to the people that unfortunately have been laid off, right? We're lucky enough that our portfolio has provided us stable income. Our W-2 jobs are still paying us, even though we're on the front lines of this. Somebody that just recently lost their job, say, even just a real estate broker that, can't turn listings right now, because of the market. What do you say to them? What should they do to protect themselves and their financial health and their business even?
Right. Well, for starters, I believe you shouldn't be doing any investing unless you are personally debt-free. If you have credit cards, student loans, car notes, pay those off before you start investing. That sets you up for better success in business, I believe. And then once you are in business and you're living on a roller coaster of money in and money out, like maybe like you said, a real estate agent or someone who's flipping properties or whatever it might be, an appraiser, whoever's kind of down on deals right now, is keep your four walls built up. That's kind of like a Dave Ramsey thing, and basically make sure you pay for your roof over your head. So try to keep your mortgage and your rent paid, pay for food, pay for transportation, pay for clothes on your back. Those are the four basic walls that kind of keep you afloat. Everything else, put on pause. Don't worry about paying your credit cards right now. Don't worry about paying your car note right now. It is what it is. Get caught back up on them. When the job flows there, the money's back up and running again. Everything else kind of just hit pause on.
Yeah, it's interesting because the Dave Ramsey stuff, I understand, his philosophy on stuff, but I don't want to say I don't agree with it because believe me, I'm not all about just like go all in on assets and stuff like that. But I do. But it also depends on who you are and your personality type. And if you're a spender in general, I get it. I just think like me personally as mindset, it's kind of like, I'm all about just investing in assets because the goal, and maybe this isn't the goal for everybody, but most people who like money and finance, it should be the goal is obviously your passive income. Completely growing and outpacing it, and assets and passive income will always grow. Your money will always grow a lot faster than your hard work. It's just that simple. There's only so much earning potential that all of us can have. So at the same time, being involved in assets, and I get it. If they're long-term play assets, I agree with you. There's an argument if like, hey, let's say I did a big deal and I have $50,000. Do I pay off $50,000 worth of debt, or do I, buy something with $50,000, invest in a rental property? Maybe I buy a $50,000 rental property that's free and clear, and I get $1,000 a month positive cash flow, or invest in a note, or flip a piece of real estate. So there is an argument on that, depending on who they are. I do think it's somewhere kind of in between because obviously debt's a killer, and it's hard to have any types of debt in place that are low interest rates. And maybe your car is a low interest rate, but that's a stupid purchase. Purchase anyways if you don't have financial means to cover it. And we'll go back in a second to what Ian said about like some advice for like real estate agents or someone like that who just doesn't have much cash flow coming in right now, potentially, like if they don't have many listings. But one hack that we've always done that really works is figuring out ways to automatically deduct the funds and put them into an asset or a savings account or just out of your checking account, because we all know that if any money that gets put into your household checking account, it's just going to get absorbed, and you can spend an extra $1,000 a month in no time without you even realizing it. Every dollar that goes in there, you could have a household budget of $3,000, $5,000, $10,000 or more. Every dollar you put in there is just going to get spent if it doesn't, if you don't figure out a solution. So like, I have auto debits that come out of my personal account every month. We have lots of auto debits that come out of our business account every month. Inside our business accounts, we have money that goes into our lender accounts. We have money that goes into our our retirement accounts. We have money that goes into additional savings accounts, some inside our banks and some outside of our banks. The benefits of having savings accounts outside in a completely different financial financial
climate.
What's the freaking word? No, the bank into a different bank is, for instance, if I have a checking account with Bank of America and a savings account with Bank of America, it's one click and I can move that money over and now I spend it. But if I have them in different, if I have them in different, exactly. If I have them in different banks, it's a lag time before you can get that money over there. So you play mind games. I mean, finances is a game, right? Like cash flow, all of that, they're games. Like you figure out, and some people daydream about it, like I do. Some people have zero interest into it. I mean, I think it's very irresponsible for people to think like, oh, I just don't know much about finance, and like my spouse handles that or this person handles that. It's like, that's what it's about. Like, why, if you don't care about personal finance, why are you even out there earning money every month?
Right. It's a slippery slope. I mean, if you're not on top of it, I mean, it's easy to lose control. I remember when I'll never forget when we first created a budget, me and my wife, this is when we finally had to change a mindset. Like, we've got to dig ourselves out of this. And we start going through bank statements. We couldn't believe the amount of money we were spending, like eating out. Just something as simple as going out to eat. I mean, it was adding up, man. Like, it just, it was astronomical. Yeah. So, and then you had to start making sacrifices. It is what it is. We didn't go on vacation for a few years while we're digging ourselves out of a hole, and we didn't go out to restaurants, and we didn't buy newer cars. And I mean, I still drive a 15-year-old truck. It's just by choice. I could go out and buy a new truck, but why? You know what I mean? I have a free and clear car. You know what I mean? It's worth something. But
And one of the things to break your initial habit isn't one of the tricks like Jay was saying is, moving different bank accounts, but even just, personally, if you're trying to figure yourself out or your business, didn't you use the envelope trick? I think was one of the tips and tricks.
Yeah, there's that. And it was just constantly, I mean, I log into my bank account every day, and I'm like, what money left? What money's in? You know what I mean? But yeah, like it was driving the money, making sure that the money, if I only had $100 to eat out and that $100 was going by the 15th of the month, we didn't eat out until next month. It's just understanding the buckets of money and being disciplined and making sacrifices.
Yeah, and I saw on your desk, and I'm nervous for the conversation, but the old audit of our business bank accounts for subscription agreements. I mean, how many subscription agreements were like, oh, we use this, we need that, we need this, and next thing you don't use it for 8 or 9 months, and you're like, well, what the hell am I paying for? And $10 times 10 times, it adds up over the year. So.
No, it's something, like because I've helped a lot of guys at the fire department kind of get themselves out of debt and going through their budgets. I mean, the amount of stuff like iTunes, I mean, $2 here, $3, $4 in apps, just stupid stuff, constantly taking money out of the bank, pulling $20 out of a debit, an ATM machine, and it dings you for $5 a transaction. It's like, take $200 in cash out every 2 weeks and live off that. If you're gonna go to the out to eat, use that cash. Don't use your debit card. So that way you can feel it, touch it. You have an emotional connection to that money that's leaving your pocket instead of just a transactional swipe of a debit or credit card. There's no, you don't feel it. You don't understand the impact.
I agree. It's so hard. It's so hard for me to whip out cash out of my pocket and give it to somebody. Debit, credit, fake transactions. I mean, they're not fake. They're real money. Like
you don't feel it until the statement shows up next month.
Hey, Dan, send him a Venmo request for $1 million. He said he won't feel it.
Just send it over, man. Whatever.
It's just fake. It's just fake currency that moves around the internet.
Exactly.
Shoot, there's one other thing I was going to say. Oh yeah. And I think this is a very common misconception, and we brought this up 3 or 4 times already. But I think everybody thinks that, hey, if I just made a little bit more money, then I'd be able to do all these other things that would work itself out, and it's harder for me. I mean, don't get me wrong, it is harder for somebody who makes $2,000 a month than for someone who makes $10,000 a month, right? But it's still the same mindset, it's still the same principles, and that's what happens. Every single person out there, I mean, not every single person, but the majority of people out there at one point, maybe they were bartending when they were young and they were making decent money and they were spending it all on whatever they bought it for. And then all of a sudden they got a better job and they made more money and then they started spending that. And then next thing you're a real estate investor or a real estate agent and you do a lot of business or you own a lot of properties or whatever the case is, but you're still in a same situation. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, if you have bad habits today and you're only making $30,000 a year, when you make $100,000 a year, whatever it might be, you're still going to have those same bad habits unless you change. So
and
exactly.
I walked into Dan's office one day. It was recently, probably in the last 6 months. I was like, we just need to make more money. And to Jason's point is, it's not that we need to make more money. We have a nice portfolio. We had a spending problem on, unforeseen costs, not budgeting properly, maybe overpaying ourselves for a period of time. When he said that, I was like, oh, screw you. And I walked back out of the office, came over here, and I was like, what's he talking about?
Yeah.
And it makes sense. It's like, can you wipe out your debt? Can you fix inherent problems inside of your business? And again, we've talked about it multiple times over the past few weeks. Now's a great time to dissect your business, open up your books, take a look at it, find out what the hell's going on. Realtors, especially, now's a great time. You don't need tons of marketing. We're marketing for free right now, the 3 of us, right? Like, there's plenty of ways to do things for free or very inexpensively that could advance your business a long way.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, as far as it's so easy to say we need to make more money. Obviously, we all want to make more money. That's right. No shit. I mean, but it's not just a snap of the fingers. You know what I mean? It's like what, how, and when. It's not going to show up tomorrow. What we can do is look inside ourselves, look inside our budget. Where can we cut things out and make sacrifices and move money around? And all of a sudden you find a raise within your own budget. You know what I mean? Or whatever. You found money that can be moved elsewhere and played with. And that's kind of what I've been focusing on, just because that's my mentality. Ian's is off in the clouds thinking big picture stuff, and that's fine. I mean,
it's not all
right.
Good.
No, I'm just saying, what can I fix today, immediately? That's kind of my mindset.
Yeah, and there's only so much stuff you can cut out of your budget to begin with. So most people just care about top line revenue, how many properties I've done, top line revenue, but bottom line revenue is all that counts. Listen, if I can make the same amount of money in one property and it takes you 10, it makes more sense for me to do one. Less risk, less liability, and stuff like that. So, step one is, and obviously if you're a business owner, you better know what an income and expense and a balance sheet looks like, and a profit and loss. So pull those reports. If you have an accountant that does those reports, have them pull them and send them to you, and study them and learn them and ask a million questions of what all of that means. Figure that out first, right? So get all that intact. After that, break everything down and, figure out what your gross income is, and then figure out what your net, your bottom line revenue is, your net income in it, and then figure out what you can, get rid of. I mean, we typically will do that once a year, and we try to just get our expenses as low as possible. There's only so low you can get. Like, you got to have rent, you got to have your essentials, you got to have your marketing expenses. So get that to where it needs to be, and then, figure out how your company's operating. And then everything above that is gravy. Whatever is above that, you don't necessarily need to put into frivolous, unnecessary stuff. Figure that out. Like, you got to understand, and this isn't a bash on real estate agents in general, but this happens a lot with real estate agents because their primary business model is to sell real estate, not to buy and invest in real estate. And as real estate investors that own rental properties or lend money, our business model is an investment vehicle, right? Like, you guys, your business model is an investment vehicle to buy assets. My business model is an investment vehicle to invest in notes. So it's kind of second nature because that's how the business model is set up. You got to take that money and invest into assets and invest into, anything. You can't just listen, you fix and flip a house, you make $30,000 and then you got to pay capital gains tax on it. It's the same thing. You sell a house, you buy a house, and you make a commission, you make a fee. You're working hard to do that. I write a loan and I get points on that. That's great. We all need that income. That's called cash flow. Yeah, active cash flow. But at the same time, with that money, after we pay taxes on it, what are we doing with it? We got to invest in assets with it. That's how it is. You got to invest assets on a personal level. You got to invest in assets on a business level. Businesses are going to survive if they have assets. Businesses are going to survive if they have different means of cash flow coming in. If we didn't, do any loans for the next 3 months, hopefully this isn't going to last another 3 months. If you guys probably aren't even buying properties over the next, well, maybe you're buying that one, but you don't need to go out and buy properties. I don't need to go out and do loans. I mean, eventually that doesn't last forever, but we have, assets and income coming in from other means. We're not reliant on just front end. And yes, that takes time to build up. It doesn't happen overnight, but like, you got to have that mindset and going into something of, cool, I just made a $5,000 fee. This amount of money in my business is going to go towards this amount is going to go towards growth, and this amount's going to go towards some sort of asset. Right. And then, and then you wake up in the morning a year later, which isn't that long of a time, or 10 years later. I mean, think about where you were 10 years ago. Like, it's not that long ago. And then all of a sudden you're in a good spot. So we're going to, at least in my opinion, there's going to be some uncomfortable times over the next, who knows, months, years. And every single person who wants to survive, I think, will survive if they're doing the right things. I was going to jump into some other stuff not related to financial things. If Dan wants to participate, he's welcome to. If not, he can hop off. Whatever. Hey,
all he's going to do is listen to me through the walls. So you might as well stay on.
I mean, I want to go through some stuff that people can do to not necessarily prepare themselves, but stuff that can be proactive moving forward. Now's the time. Like, if you don't have as much transactional work as you had in the past, because transactional work takes a lot of time and people don't realize the difference between offense and defense in their business and what is transactional work compared to business growth work. But this is the time to do your business growth work. Get your marketing campaign set up. Go print out all your financial documents and figure out where your numbers are.
That's fine. Let's talk about something we're proactively doing in our business. One, Dan, we just finished up preparing all new documents. And again, as dumb as this sounds, it's not transactional, but having the proper documents to send out to our tenants, right? That's a proactive thing that's been on our list for how long that got completed. Financially, Daniel, what have we done proactively to set ourselves up financially during this past 2 to 3 weeks?
Well, I mean, I would say it's led up to it's been easier to do is we've been doing a breakdown per property and going in and dissecting each property to figure out, well, why did this property make less money than this property, or what happened between the months? I mean, Ian probably hates doing it because he's better at filling out Excel sheets than I am.
I
like analyzing the data afterwards and figuring out what went wrong or what did go right as far as each individual property itself.
Yeah,
not as a the portfolio as a whole, but I like to needle it down to each address.
Right. So leading up to this, we proactively, not only do we have our P&L, but then we broke it down even onto a deeper level on each property and said, okay, this was turnover cost, this was that. And literally, you guys don't understand. I literally hate doing it, but it satisfies Dan's need to look at it, which if I don't look at it, it's never going to get resolved. And ultimately, Dan looks at it and says, hey, turnover cost is an issue. Took it to our project manager, Ryan. And next, we have a resolution to fix our turnover costs and highly reduce it, because that was our biggest expense on our rental properties. Jay, what are you guys doing actively to dissect your business? I know you guys are a little bit different. You're all working remotely, but what are you guys doing?
I mean, most of the stuff that we spend time on is growth and marketing and proactive stuff inside our business. I mean, we've been very disciplined over the years, internally with strategies and systems and processes and people and things like that. And as things change, like let's say we're onboarding a new software, like we just like all hands on deck, like let's get this project done. Like we upgraded, to put our servicing software remotely on a server software instead of one that was ancient dinosaurs in our office, because it was just easier to have set up like that. And that couldn't have happened at a better time, because that only went into place like 2 months ago. So a lot of that stuff's kind of in place. I mean, our big project early in the year that we had just finished right before all this happened was tax prep. We have a lot of entities that we have to do tax prep for, and a lot of them are income and expense, so they're easy. But as you know, the real estate ones with real estate holdings is harder because there's asset liability and there's a lot of other stuff that goes on related to that. So a lot of the stuff, honestly, like we've always done in real time. And then usually the way that we've always done it is usually like once or twice a year, we'll have one big project. So we'll have like one big internal process that we want to set up, like big process. Like, hey, like let's change our whole post-closing setup for this. Then we'll have one marketing project, like a real big marketing project. And then one like finance project. Like, hey, let's figure out a way to automate this, 401k process, or I don't know, like investing in 401k process or something like that. So a lot of the stuff we're doing right now is marketing related. We're always doing stuff marketing related. I mean, that's important. But, I would say to this day, we've always talked about offense versus defense. Defense is doing transactional work. Offense is doing proactive, business growth work. We've always tried to be at like 50-50, and today we still are. And I mean, I've got you look at my computer, I got 13 unread messages from since we've started, which is new loan applications that have come in, and those are obviously very important. That's why we do all this marketing. But at the same time, the reason those are in there now is from what I did in the past, and what I do today for marketing and business building will bring loan applications like that into the future. So right. We're still doing both.
Yeah, and we, look, everybody hates playing. Defense is a part of the game. I'm not literally. I know I've called Jason on days and be like, I don't even feel like going to the office because we are literally playing defense because we're just doing all transactional work, which mentally hurts. It hurts me. It's a pain point for me. But you can't play offense unless you're playing good defense, right? So you got to get your stuff squared up. This isn't really proactively what we're doing, but Dan, if you would share kind of how we keep track of everything that we got going on and your secret weapon. I mean, me personally, I've tried Google Calendars. I've tried literally everything. That damn yellow pad right there that he is holding up. Every day every day Dan makes a list, right? And we talk about, usually I walk over once a day in the morning and say, hey, what we got going on today? Take a look at the pad. And at the end of the day, we usually summarize. We both meet up and summarize and say, yeah, here's mine. I keep mine on a scrap paper because I need something new every day. But we talk about it every day, right? If you have a business partner or you don't, even if you're talking to yourself, it doesn't matter. You got to take the time to write these things down, and know where you're going and give you some sort of trajectory. And I think Dan can comment better because that's what helps him keep going.
Yeah, I mean, my personality type, I'm probably type A, I guess. I just need to have control of a list. It's something simple list, and then the feeling of crossing those things out down the line as I get them done is, I don't know, it feels good. So, and then if I don't get it done today, I move that stuff to the top of the list for tomorrow, and then prioritize it. I got lists all around the damn office. I got whiteboard lists, and we meet every Monday or first of the week with Ryan, our project manager, and sit down and what's going on in his world and create another list, and he works off that and we work off it, and it's easy to communicate. We're doing the same thing with our West Virginia project, a running list, and everyone can reference back to that as far as what's going on. I want to say real quick, one thing we discovered, I guess you can call it playing offense, maybe defense, I don't know, is when we switched to a new tenant platform inside our business, we used to collect all of our rents either via money order or they would go on the QuickBooks and pay online. Problem with QuickBooks is the charge that they process for the credit cards gets put back on you as the owner. It's not on the tenant. So, I mean, that was coming off our bottom line. I mean, it was let's say they paid $100. I forget what it was.
Probably 3% ish.
3%. Yeah. I mean, you're losing that money. It's going right out the window. So by switching to this new platform, not only is it multiple ways that the tenant can pay, whether it's bank, ACH, or a credit card or whatever, PayPal, that expense is now on the tenant or the cardholder, not us. So it's their convenience as far as paying it online, but it's also our convenience that, we're now saving that money. And it's actually the savings is actually paying for that platform and then some. And so we discovered that over the last month or two as we've implemented this tenant platform. But I mean, that's just something we discovered. Yeah.
And those that are looking, it's called tenantcloud.com. We're still working our way through it. It seems to be, they seem to be a startup, but the program for the most part has been very good. It has great communication.
Well, another thing is it's affordable. I mean, compared to Yardi or some of these other bigger
Propertyware.
Look, we don't have a gigantic portfolio. We're not managing thousands of properties. So as far as the affordability goes, this was way inside of our budget. So.
Yep.
But then, like I said, then we discovered that the savings is actually we're paying for it by ourselves just by getting the tenants to pay on that platform instead of QuickBooks.
And hey, real quick, Dan, I know we were talking about Debt Snowball and stuff like that. Is there somewhere people can go or Google what they can Google to if they want to do it for their business? Because I know we started to do one for our business, or personally they want to work through some of these items.
I mean, just Google Debt Snowball. There's a ton of online calculators. I use that method personally to get out of debt. I've consulted lots of my personal, my friends and stuff and family, and built out debt snowballs for them. And you can easily, I think there's some Excel sheets out there that you can easily build and put the calculations into. Not me, Ian could do that, but I have them saved on my computer now, so it's easily, just input the information and spits out, how long it would take you to pay off your debt at, the current rate you're paying down on it. So, but just Google it. I mean, there's 1,000 different articles and calculators on it.
Gotcha. So that's the Debt Snowball. And if you want a book to read on positive growth with assets, check out The Snowball from Warren Buffett, one of my favorite books of all time. It's a super long.
Yeah, I was going to say it's a little beyond my reading capabilities.
I only do audiobooks, and those are very easy to go through if you have to drive to the office, back and forth, but without any driving. Those are tough. So smaller podcasts have been working best for me. I'm gonna mention something very interesting that I heard Gary Vee say a few days ago on CNBC, and then we'll call this quits unless anyone has any other questions.
Oh no, there's a comment that we got to get to before we wrap up. You can talk about your CNBC comment.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay,
we'll end with that. So they were asking Gary Vee some advice related to right now, some of these larger businesses. How do you stay, with that, a lot of these larger businesses that were on hold, for instance, and they, huge restaurant chains and things like that, but they wanted to keep their brand intact, but they might not have it in their budget, and they wanted to just continue to marketing and growth. They're like, what's the best trait that these higher ups, these CEOs could have? He's like, if I was a CEO of a Fortune 500 company right now, he was like, I would learn how to use, the Facebook ads platform and Google AdWords. And he's like, as crazy as it sounds, that's where all this stuff's going, and that's where it's been. And, if you really want to make a difference and figure out how you're going to lead and grow your team, and, most of these guys are spending, millions and millions of dollars a month, these companies, and they don't even know how it works. He's like, now's the time to do it. Like, don't overlook the small stuff. Like, I believe if you're a real estate investor, a real estate agent, a real estate professional of any means, like, you need to figure out how to market. I know this conversation is mostly related to personal finance, but you need to learn how to do all those things, how to do marketing, how to do personal finance, how to do all of these things. Everybody just wants to point their finger to my business partner, my CPA, or my attorney, or my marketing agency, or my consultant that does these things. Figure it out yourself and do it yourself. Like, that's what a small business is. Like, if you ask me or my partner Chris, and you guys as well, like, the reason that we can train an employee or hire the right person to do anything in our business is because I'm not afraid to say I've done every single one of them. I mean, we've run 6 figures a year in AdWords, and Chris and I set those campaigns up in 2008, and we continue to monitor them. I'm on Facebook ads every day, running those or coordinating that with somebody who's running them. I mean, we've personally done all of that stuff. I'm not doing the keystrokes in our servicing portfolio every time a loan closes or sending out payment coupons, but I know how to. And, I've trained our employees when new things come up. I'm involved in it. I mean, that's so often. And I feel like so many people just, they just think, oh, I'm just going to hire someone to do that. Or it's hard to hire someone in a small business. It's hard to hire someone to fill a role where you don't even know what that role is without creating a position statement or things like that. Like, these are the times to do all that stuff. Yeah. Create position statements, put all of these things in place.
We talked about all the time, and I'm the same way. I always say, if we don't understand it ourselves, how are we going to put someone in that place? Because if we hire them today and then they leave tomorrow, it's right back on our laps anyway. So maybe, but I want to be able to hire somebody that can come in and throw gasoline on the fire and excel it. Maybe they do know it. Maybe they know QuickBooks better than we do. Probably. Yeah. And when we do hire that bookkeeper or accountant inside our business, hopefully they can, skyrocket it way better than we could. But at the same time, we know how to run it. We know how to, it's the same thing when we hired Ryan. We were the ones circling the Beltway every day, managing all of our projects. We were doing 15 flips at a time. It was like insanity. But, finally we found the right.
You knew how to do it. But you knew how to do it. And what most of tasks are in general, it's not, it's putting the right person who can think that are smart. They can think by themselves. They can problem solve. Those are key things. Yes, like, if you want to hire a bookkeeper, it's ideal if they know QuickBooks, but it's actually not even mandatory because they can figure it out. It's not rocket science to do some of those stuff. Most of the trades in the real estate businesses in general aren't. It's the right person in place, like brainstorming and being able to creatively think and do stuff and be happy. Those are the proper way to do it. And
it's the same thing like when we hired a trainer to, as you can see, it's really working out by our double chins that, we were trying to get stronger. But had we not hired a trainer, we would still be doing nothing. So Dan, someone that has access to our account from Equity Warehouse says, can we talk about Dan's deadlift record next? And we're here. What's your goal? What's your goal to get on your deadlift? I saw some impressive weight getting thrown around the other day.
Well, I have 500 written down. I really want to, that's the magic number right now. So,
and I did watch him. I will post a picture. I did watch him pull 475 the other day, which is about as much as I weigh. It was pretty impressive. My body's not made for lifting. That's my only issue. But no, seriously, man, thanks. I've been talking about trying to get Dan in front of a camera for however many years we've been in business now. 6 years later, here he is, and I thought it was a very valuable conversation.
No, I let Ian's face, I let him
look at this face.
Yeah, I let him do all the talking.
We just had to do a topic that he was interested in. So as long as we do topics he's interested in, it's personal finance. Like, this should interest people. I don't get it. It's about your money. Everybody goes out there and works so damn hard every day for their money, and then they don't even care about what happens on the back end. Yeah. It's the most important thing. Yep. All right, Dan. Everyone knows where to find you, so I don't have to ask you those questions. And we appreciate.
Don't call me anyway. I probably won't call you back. So it's just
call Ian.
The email it'll just wind up in my lap. Hey, can you call? Yeah, hey, yeah, there you go.
No, whichever way, Ian.
Yeah. I'll just say, hey, can you call this guy back? So
right.
Gotcha. All right, man. Till next time. Thanks. Yeah, good stuff. People want to see the video. 500 pounds.
No, I guess we'll have to make a post. It's not real estate related, but it does go back to everything that we've been talking about, whether it's personal finance of setting a goal, weightlifting, setting a goal, even just buying a rental property and setting that goal. If you're not setting a goal and trying to achieve it, then what's the point, right? Like, there's nothing to work towards. Me personally, I like to put the goals in my head. I don't really write them down. It's not like if I had a dream board, that's not what motivates me. There's other things. I don't know what it is, but I know waking up and smiling is kind of my motivation. And that's just a goal that I have every day. But the whole weightlifting thing, there it is. Write it down. He has a goal that he wants to achieve. Did he miss his goal? Sure. But a goal is just like a budget. It's a living, breathing thing. And the target, well, it's not always moving. It's a target that can be obtained, And I think a lot of people have a misconception about budget, saying, well, if I only put $500 down for marketing and I spend $501, I did something wrong. No, if you spend $501 and you got that one more lead, then next month you need to reevaluate your budget and potentially increase that ad spend to make it and understand, or you need to reduce your ad spend and say, okay, well, I can't afford $501. That lead didn't convert enough. I need to figure out how to reduce this. What can I do? What can I do something for free? Right. So
exactly. Yeah. So I know we went on a little bit of all over the place today, a little bit off topic, and not necessarily even, one might think it wasn't really even related to what we're seeing out there in the market, but I think it was a super important topic. This is the time to really reevaluate, check out your personal finance. We dove in a little bit related to, using downtime and creating, strategies and new systems and marketing campaigns and stuff like that. Maybe we'll hop on and talk about that more later. But, I feel like this is a rant that we had, an hour to spend time on, because, I'm getting calls and emails and texts all the time of like, my opinion on things. And my opinion is hunker down right now. And, you have less transactional work. Everyone has less transactional work than before. So, go on offense, be proactive, put strategies in place. If you don't know how to read your P&L and your balance sheet and your income expense report and everything like else, have your bookkeeper or whoever does it, pull it out of QuickBooks and analyze the crap out of it, and then ask every question that you can. Because investing in real estate in general, accounting wise, is actually extremely complicated, because there's just income and expense and asset and liabilities compared to other things. Like if you're a real estate agent and you just get fee income for commission. But it doesn't matter. Whatever your type of business is, access your reports or just pull your tax returns and study those and figure it out. You got to understand how the money works. You got to understand how the money works to be in business. So let's chat who we got ahead this week.
Okay, so tomorrow I'm on the road headed to West Virginia. I'd be more than happy to check up on our project. I know they're self-quarantined. However, we have to get out there. I'd be happy to do an embedded type video if you'd like to go live. I will gladly give people a walkthrough while we're out there. If not, we'll skip tomorrow. And Thursday, we have Justin Werner and Brooks Healy.
Good.
Well, I'll do a walkthrough. I have no problem with it. Maybe we'll set it up. I'll probably be out there around lunchtime. Thursday, I'm super excited. We have Justin Werner and Brooks Healy of Harborstone Advisors. Justin is the leader in the Baltimore market for the $1 to $5 million multifamily properties. I've done several deals with him. Super knowledgeable, an owner himself. He's going to give us an update on the market, what he's seeing from his larger landlords and himself, rent collections, forbearance agreements, where he sees the market going in the multifamily world. He only trades multifamily properties. Very rarely do we see him trade anything but that. So it'll be a real interesting deep dive on the multifamily world with him. So I'm excited for that. And then Jason, I think you had Friday scheduled up. I'm not sure.
And then we have a special case study, like we did this past Friday. We got a special case study for Friday that will be announced soon of who that is. So we appreciate everybody following up. Let me just get to Banks's last question. I have a 7.7 acre raw land zone R1, or any lenders doing projects like that. I think those are going to be tough for lenders right now. I would try to reach out to somebody local. I don't know where this property is located, but I would reach out to somebody local who understands that type of project, who might be willing to do it. I will tell you that every lender out there is getting a little bit more conservative, including ourselves at Hard Money Bankers. Just to be cautious, to see where the market's going right now. There is uncertainty on there. Obviously, a land right now on a project like that, who knows what direction, a project like that potentially is going to go in. It's a longer term project. I know a lot of the lenders want to be on some more shorter stuff where they can get their money back in their pocket a few months later after the project's completed. But there's always a lender at the right number that makes a deal work. Most lenders these days are requiring a little bit more cash down. So I'm not 100% sure if you're looking for 100% financing, or if you have 50% down and you're looking to get 50% from the lender. But I would say stay local and try to find someone local that could potentially do that. Cool. Ian, any last words before we hop off?
No, thanks for tuning in. If you do want to get a hold of Dan, you feel free to email me, Ian at Equity Warehouse, and I will get the information over to Dan, and we'd be happy to discuss anything that you're looking to talk about. If not, check out Dave Ramsey. Even if you don't believe in everything you see, it's just good to hear, and it's a good reiteration of, potentially how to restructure your business and your life assets, and potentially generate some additional income for yourself during these times.
Sure.
And Jason, do you want to mention our new? Well, obviously we had the opening.
Oh yeah.
So we've rebranded, since it is Equity Warehouse and Hard Money Bankers together. We thought that we would need Jason, drop your name tag if you can. I don't know if it's hard to see.
I gotta figure out how to do that.
So we've rebranded to the Real Estate Reserve Podcast. We'll bring you guys as much content as possible. You hopefully by the end of today, you'll be able. I see Jason's on his phone trying to see if we're up on iTunes yet, Stitcher, realestatereservepodcast.com. As of right now, we just have these videos up there, but we'll have some additional content here in the future. Feel free to check it out. If not, you can always find us here live on Hard Money Bankers Facebook, Equity Warehouse Facebook, and the YouTube channel for Hard Money Bankers. And I appreciate it, man. I look forward to tomorrow. I'm happy to do the embedded type walkthrough video with you.
Yeah. How much time will you have? Yeah. So what do you guys do? Are you in vacant units tomorrow?
We're in vacant units only. We got some stuff to check up on. We have to get home. So just so everyone knows, Home Depot is running some backlog, if you can imagine, because everybody's doing deliveries. Before we used to just get deliveries and it was never an issue. The Home Depot out in West Virginia is running about a week backup right now. So we are going to go pick up our order. So I will have some time to walk through a bunch of stuff out there, as much time as we need, and walk through that project with everybody. And you guys can see what we were talking about from Friday's case study.
Yep. Let's plan on that. If we'll try to tune in live from from Ian's property tomorrow. If we can make that work. If not, what time are we on at 1? We're at 1:30 on Thursday.
1:30. Yep, 1:30 Thursday, and we'll let you know the time for tomorrow.
Yep. All right, guys.
See ya.
See you later.